Hello and welcome back. Now in this session we are going to work with the models and I want to make you create some animation so that you can showcase your work. So today what we are now going to do is, and the link I have provided this file, I will just open it now. Go to file, open, and you have one file here, 6 arrows finished. Click on open and you can see this file opens in the camera view. Okay, I will just rotate the mouse and I will zoom it a little and I will click the play button and you can see an animation running over here. You can see the animation. I will come to the screen, press 1 to come to the top view. I will play the animation and I will just rotate and see this animation from all the point of view. So this is the file we are going to create today. Today we are going to create this animation. I will stop the animation and if I click the rewind button or shift plus left arrow, I will come over here and if you explore every object over here, all these are made up of primitive objects. So using the primitive object and placing it precisely, we are now going to create this animation. So to begin with, let us now go to file, choose new and general. If it was for save, click don't save here. So now in the scene already you are present with a cube. If you want to delete it, you already know keyboard shortcut is X. So I will come here, press X, and if it will ask if you want to delete, I will click delete. Now to add it, I will press shift plus A, go to mesh, and again I am going to add a cube. So I am going to start with this cube, and if I just click 1, I will come to the front view. Now as you are seeing this cube is present actually 1 unit at the center. So to bring it on the red axis, the total size of this cube is 2 units. So if I open the add cube, you can see the size of this cube is 2 meters. 2 meters and the center of this cube is at the center, means 2 minus 1. If I move it 1 unit along the z axis, in the z axis here in the add cube, if I press 1 and press enter, you can see this cube is created exactly at the base. So you can tweak these values as soon as you create a cube. However, if you click somewhere outside, do some modification, and if you select the cube again, this option will be gone. We cannot use it. So after this, now I will next want to add a plane. Now here one more thing we have to understand here is the cursor point. You see a white and red dotted line at the center. This is called as a cursor point. By default, in any file, this cursor point is set to 0, 0, 0. However, so here you have the cursor. If I select this cursor and click anywhere in the screen, the cursor will be shifted over here. Now the cursor is shifted over here. And now if I try to add some object, say for example, I will press shift plus A, mesh, and I am going to add a plane. Now what happened is, the plane, instead of getting added here, if I just middle mouse press and if I rotate it, you can see the plane has got added over here. So in this way, the cursor can be used to determine the position where we want the model to be placed. Right now I will select this plane, I will press X and delete it. Now what I want to do is, I want this plane to be placed exactly over the top of this cube. So if I select this cursor and click on this cube, I can place it over the cube here. However, I cannot precisely select the center of this cube. So, for this what I am now going to do is, I will come back to the selections tool, I will select the cube, I have selected the cube. Now, from object mode I will go into edit mode. We are going to discuss about this edit mode in detail in a separate class, but right now what you have to understand is, even if you press tab on your keyboard, you can toggle between, this is object mode, if I press tab again I will go into edit mode. I will come to face edit and I will select the top face. Selecting the top face, now what I will do is, I will press shift plus S and now you have one pie menu appearing for the cursor. And now what I will do is, I will choose the option cursor to selected. When I choose this option cursor to selected, now what happened was, the cursor is now placed exactly to the center of this point. So, now I will press tab and come out to the object mode. So, coming out to the object mode, now I have the cursor placed exactly over the top of this cube. Now, if I press shift plus A and if I add a plane, the plane is added exactly over the top of the cube. Now, since it is sitting exactly on the top, I couldn't see it. What I will do is, I will come to size here in the add plane and change it to 3 and press enter. So, now you can see this plane is added with a 3 meter area. Now, what has happened is, this cube is 2 meter and the plane is 3 meter. So, you are having around half a meter of extrusion on all the sides. Now, I will press tab. When you press tab, you enter into edit mode, and in edit mode, in face selection, I have selected this face, and there is a mode in edit mode which we call as extrude. We are going to explore this in detail in the later class. Right now you have a tool here, extrude region. Either you can use this tool, or if you just press E on your keyboard and if you drag it, you can see the face is dragged downwards or upwards like this, and I am going to move it up like this, and I am going to move it by around 0.2 along the z axis. Now, this has become a square plank. Now, I will press tab and come back to object mode. So, we created two objects now. One is the cube and another we converted the plane into a plank. Now, the next thing is, I want to add my next over here, and this it to be placed above this whatever plane we are seeing here. I want to place it above this plane. So, for this what I will do? I will again press tab. I will come to face selection mode, press middle mouse and turn like this, and I am going to select this top face. Once you select the top face, now press shift plus S and choose cursor to select it. So, now what happened is, this cursor moved to the center of this entire plane. So, if I press tab again, now what happened? The cursor is placed at the top here. I will now press shift A, and in mesh I am going to add a UV sphere. So, when I click on the UV sphere, you can now see an UV sphere is added. However, now what is happening is, the UV sphere is not sitting exactly over this plane, because the center of the UV sphere is the origin point. So, this center is sitting exactly over this plane. So, I want to move it, and I want to make the bottom end of this sphere to sit on this plane. How can you do it? Very simple, by doing some simple mathematical calculation. See, now here if you come to this add UV sphere, you can see if I want to make this come and sit on the top of the plane, what I have to now do is, I have to come to this z axis. You have 2.2 meters. You can directly do mathematical calculations here. For example, here I will click here, I will press plus, I will press 1 and I will press enter. See now what happened? The previous height was 2.2 meters. I added 1 meter, it became 3.2 meters. So now, like this you can directly add mathematical calculations here. This is the beauty of this Blender software. So now I will press shift and middle mouse, pan it down, and you can see this cube is placed exactly over plane. Now let us come back to this cube, and now in this cube I want the next object to be placed exactly to the center of this cube. The next object I want to add is, I will press shift plus A and I want to add a torus. Torus is like a tire. If I click torus, right now what is happening is, this torus is coming and adding at the bottom because our cursor is placed here. So I will select this, I will press Ctrl Z and I will undo this, and now I will select this sphere, I will press shift plus S, and now I will put cursor to selected. When I choose cursor to selected, now what happened? The cursor shifted to this cube, and now what I will do is, I will press shift plus A and I am going to now add the torus. See now the torus is placed exactly to the center of this sphere. Okay, so now we added a cube, we added a plane, extruded it and converted it into a plank, we added a sphere on its top, then we added a torus around it. And the next object I am going to add now is a cylinder. The cursor is placed at the center of this sphere. We have set the cursor to the center of the sphere. Now what I will do is, I will press shift A, come to mesh, and I am going to add a cylinder. Now the radius I am going to change it to 0.2, and I am going to change its depth from 2 meters 5 meters, so that this is a 5 meter length. I want this cylinder to sit exactly over the top of this sphere. So again we have to do some mathematical calculation. The calculation we have to do is, this cylinder is 5 meters. So the distance from the center to the bottom, this distance is now 2.5 meters. So what I have to do is, to make this bottom come over here, I have to move it along the z axis by 2.5 meters, and from here to move it to the top of the cylinder, I have to move by another 1 meter. So totally, if I move this from 3.5 meters, it will come and sit on the top of this sphere. And again I am going to do it, coming it into z axis. I will just see the old value, and here I will just type plus. How much I have to move? 3.5, and I will press enter. So now what happened? The cylinder, you can see, came and sat exactly over the top of this sphere. So in this way we can precisely calculate and put our objects in the scene. And after this, the next thing I want is, I want to put a cone on the top here. Now again for this, what I will do is, I will come over here, select this cylinder and go into edit mode, or I will press tab to enter into edit mode. I will come to face selection here, select the top face, press shift plus S, and here I am going to choose the option cursor to selected. Now what happened? My cursor came and sat exactly over this top face. I will press tab and come into object mode. Coming back into object mode, see that you are back in the object mode here. After this, now I will press shift A, come to mesh, and I am going to add a cone. Now if I press middle mouse and if I turn and see it, the cone is added. However, again see, the center of the cone is at the middle of the object, at the center. The bottom of the cone, the total, see, you can see here the depth of this cone is 2 meters. The center is at 1 meter. So to make it sit exactly over the cylinder, I have to move this by 2 meters, half of 2 meters, which is 1 meter. So what I can do is I will select this cone, come here in the Z axis, and I will just type plus 1 and enter. So now what happened? This cone went and sat exactly over this cylinder. So this is the way we can precisely place all the objects one above the other. So right now this structure that you are seeing has no color. I am going to add a color to this structure through materials. We are going to discuss these materials in detail in our future class. But right now what you have to now do is, I will select this cube, I will come to this material tab, and in the material tab I will click on new, and here I am going to call this material as blue, B-L-U-E, blue. Now once I have created this object, this is a principal BSDF, this is the default material created in Blender. We are going to understand what is this kind of material, all this in our future classes. But right now leave everything as default, and only thing I am going to do is, in the base color instead of white, I will click here, I will select this eyedropper, I will bring it over the color on the Z, this blue color, and I will click it. So now this is a blue material, and this blue material is attached to this cube. However, you are not seeing this color over here as of now because we are in shader mode. In shader mode we won't see this color. So I have to shift to material preview. When I shift to material preview, you can now see this cube appears in blue color. Now what I have to do is, I have to apply the same material to all the objects over here. Now the problem is, select everything and change the material. Instead of doing that, what I will do is, I will first select this cone, press shift, with shift press, next select this cylinder, then select this sphere, then select this torus. So I am making all this selection with shift pressed. I will press shift and middle mouse and pan it little to the top. Then with shift pressed, I will select this plane. So it is getting added, and finally in the last, my last selection will be this cube. You can see that the cube is the active selection by its color. If you come over here, all other objects are in dark orange color, but cube is in light orange color. It means that cube is the active color. Now press Ctrl plus L on your keyboard, and you get an option called link or transfer data, and here you have an option called link materials. When I click on link materials, you can now see that the material present on this cube has been added to all these material, that is all these objects. So all these objects now if you select, you can see it has the blue material added. The other thing I want is, I want this to rotate. want to animate it and make these objects rotate. Now what happens is, I say for example, I will come to item, or I will select this cube, press R and Z, and I will rotate along the Z axis. Now only this cube is rotating. Okay, I will right click to cancel. I want all these objects to rotate at a time. Then in Blender, we have one feature called as parenting. Parenting means all the objects, this cone, this cylinder, this sphere, this torus, this plane, everything can be made as a child of this cube. One way of doing it is just like before. With shift middle mouse I will pan up. First I will select the cone. With shift pressed I will select the cylinder. With shift pressed I will select the sphere. With shift pressed I will select the torus. With shift pressed I will select the plane, and at the last I am going to select cube. So remember, the order is important. The last object that you select will be the parent and all other objects will be the child. So making this selection now, if I press Ctrl plus P on your keyboard, remember the keyboard shortcut is Ctrl P, and if I choose the object set parent to object, now what happened is, you can see here all these objects, if I open this, came and sat inside this cube. You can either parent it in this way, or the other way is go to edit and choose undo. I will undo this. I will undo it a couple of times till it is unparented. Okay. So what I have to do is, I will keep on pressing undo. Okay, now it is unparent. The other way of doing is, I will select all this object with shift pressed except the cube. All the objects are selected. Now press shift on the keyboard. With shift pressed, with all these objects selected, drag it and put it over the cube. You see this dark gray appearing over cube, and drop it. So now what happened? The same way, all these objects became the child of this cube. So now what happens is, if I select this cube and if I press R and if I press Z and if I rotate it, now you can see all the objects are rotating. However, this sphere, you can see even the sphere, if you observe it closely, all the objects are rotating along with this cube. I will right click and cancel this rotation. So our object is now ready. So we have created this object, we have made it ready. Now our next task is, we want this object to be animated. So I will also give you a brief introduction about how to animate the object. So for animation, what we are now going to do is, I will press 1 and come into the front view, and here I will just click here, and once it turns into double arrow, I will drag it and increase my animation space. This is the space where we create animations. We are going to go in detail, but I am just giving you an intro to this. Select this cube. What I have to tell Blender is, I have to tell Blender at frame 1 where this object has to be placed. The object is placed at this point. So you have transform here. I will come over the transform location here. Okay. And I am going to click I on the keyboard. Just press I on the keyboard. You see this turns into a light yellow color. Similarly, I will also come to rotation and I will press I. So what I did, at frame 1, I added one rotation keyframe and position keyframe. Now I will come to frame 100 and I am going to move it along the Z axis by 20 meters. Okay, I will move it by 20 meters, and in z axis I am going to rotate it by 360 degrees. Okay, and I will press again I, even here I, and I will set this range start to 1 and end to 100. So now I told Blender that at frame 1 I keyed a position, at frame 100 I made changes and keyed the position. Remember to key it by pressing I. So when you press I, all this turns into light color, light yellow color. Now rewind this, you have 2 keyframes. Now what Blender will do is, if I play it, you can see the animation is created. So now if I zoom and see it here, it is not only moving from bottom to top, but you are also seeing that the arrow is rotating. Okay, you can see the arrow rotating. However, the bottom cube doesn't appear good. I will stop it, I will rewind back, I will come back to this cube, I will come to front view. Now what I will do is, with cube selected, I will press shift and middle mouse. See, say for example, when I am navigating, I am somewhere here and I have selected this cube and I want this cube to appear in full screen. I want the entire screen to be zoomed to this cube. The keyboard shortcut for this is the period. If you press period on your numpad, now what happened? It got zoomed to this area. This is the keyboard shortcut. So if you are lost somewhere and you don't know where the object is, then you can select this cube in the screen, come over here and press numpad period and you will come to that object. This is a very, very useful shortcut when we are working in 3D. Okay. Now with this selected, I will press tab again and I will come into edit mode. Now I will enable toggle X-ray. This is important. I have to enable toggle X-ray. I will select this vector selection mode. Okay. And with vector selection mode, I will also come to solid viewport shading. Okay. And this toggle X-ray is on. And now I will drag a box and I will select the 4 vertices at the bottom. You can see all the 4 vertices at the bottom are selected. Now what I will do is, I will press S to scale and I will press 0 and I will press enter. So now what happened? This cube got converted into a pyramid. See? And second thing what I am going to do is, now this point has 4 vertices. I want to merge it into 1 vertices. For this, either you can go to vertex menu here, or if I right click here, you have an option here, merge vertices. I will select by distance and here you can see the remaining 3 vertices are removed and this entire thing is now a single vertex. Okay. So these features we will discuss again in detail in our next session. Okay. Then I will press tab, I will come out and I will press 1 and I will come in the front view. So now what you are seeing, we are having, I will come back to this, I will switch off X-ray mode, I will come to material preview. So this is the object I am seeing. So now we have one animation which is running perfectly fine. See, I now want to repeat this animation on all the 6 axes. So for every direction, instead of creating this animation again and again, what I will do is, I will stop the animation playback. I will come to the first frame, I will press 1 and come here. I am going to introduce you to another type of object in Blender, which we call it as empty objects. Now if I press shift plus A, in the menu here, you have one empty menu here. And in this empty menu, I will choose the first one, plane axis. When I choose this plane axis empty menu, Right now this empty menu got created at the cursor point at the top here. I want it to be at the center. So, what I have to now do is I will press Ctrl Z and undo it. See, the empty is removed. The first thing I will do is I will press Shift plus S and I will choose cursor to world origin. Now, what happened is the cursor came to the center of my screen. Now, I am going to press Shift plus A. I will add empty plane axis. You have this empty here and I am going to name this empty as blue axis. Okay. Now, the next thing what I will do is I will select this cube and I will just move down with shift pressed. I will select this, that is this axis. Remember, the axis should be in light orange color. It means this is the active object. Okay. And now I will press Ctrl P and I will parent it to this object. So, once I parent it, now what happens is, see now this empty blue axis which I have named it is the parent and its child is this cube and this child's cube is all other objects. So, in this way you can nest your object between one another, and the advantage with this is, now I will select this blue axis, I will right click on the blue axis and I will choose the option select hierarchy. Now, what happens is all the object present inside this empty blue axis is selected here. With everything selected, I will press Shift plus D. So, the entire thing is now duplicated. I will right click. So, I have a duplicate copy here and I am going to name this as red axis. I will give it the name as red axis. Now, what I will do is I will now select only the red axis. So, only the red axis is selected and along the y axis I am going to rotate it by 90 degree and press enter. See now what happened? This entire object, the entire and with the animation, we have a new copy called red axis which is placed over here. And now if I play the animation, you can see this is running in the x axis, this is running in the blue axis. So, I need not create the entire animation again. I just created an empty, I parented it, and when I duplicated it and rotate it, now it is running along a different axis. So, now I will stop the playback. I will come to frame 1. Only thing is I have to change this material. So, I will select again this cube and I will come to material. You already have a blue material here. You have one double page icon here. This is to create a new material based on the existing material. Okay. So, for this if I click here, a copy of this blue material is created, blue 001. I will name this as red, and now in the principal base color I will click it here. I select the ink dropper and now I will select the red color. Okay. So, I applied the red color. Just like last time, what I will do is I will select the cone, then shift press select the cylinder, shift press the sphere, shift press the torus, shift press the plane, and at the last I will select this. I will press Ctrl L this time. Remember, Ctrl P is to parent, Ctrl L is to link. I will press Ctrl L and press link material. Now, what happened? The same red material is applied to all these objects, and now you have this animation running in two directions. See, you have this running in two directions. I will stop the animation. I will go back. Now, again I will select this and I am going to now come here, select the red axis, right click, and I am going to choose select hierarchy. So, that everything is selected. with select hierarchy on and with everything selected here, I will press shift plus D and right click it, and I have one more duplicate here. Now, what I will do is I will come to the top view, and now I will rotate this along the z axis by 90 degree and press enter. So, now what happened? I have this along the y axis. So, now again what I will do here, I will rename this empty as y axis. I will select this cube and I am going to now click on the new material here based on this red. I create a copy of this material. I will call this as green, and I will click on the base color. I will select this eyedropper and I will select this green color. Later on again I will select this with shift press this, with shift press this, with shift press the torus, then the plane, and then I will come to this cube at the end. The cube is in orange color, means it is the active object. Now, I will press Control plus L and I will say link material. So, all this turned green. So, now I will rewind it and I will play it, and you can see the animation playing. Okay. Now, we have completed it, and now I want you to do on your own. I will give you a task. The task is, right now we have this running only along the positive axis. Now, what I want you to do is repeat the same process, duplicate the blue axis and make it run in the opposite direction, duplicate the red axis and make it run in the opposite direction, and duplicate the green axis and make it run in the opposite direction. I want you to do this, and then I want you to, in the camera view, this is very much zoomed, I want you to zoom it out and make the entire animation run in the camera view and render it as a video. This rendering part I will explain it to you later, but right now I just want you to duplicate blue, green and red axis and make it animate in the opposite direction. This is the task I am giving it to you. You try it on yourself, and once you try it, if you have any problem, in our next session I am going to provide a solution for this. So, right now what I will go do is, I will stop the playback, I will go to file, choose save as. Remember, always we have to save it first. I will come here and give it the name as 6 my arrows. I will name it as my arrows and I will click save. So, I have saved this file.